Since I was about 4 years old, I've been a fan of Venom. I've been a fan of Spider-Man for much longer, but something about Venom stuck. Maybe it was the fact that he was an evil version of Spider-Man, maybe it was the fact that the spider logo on his chest is arguably the coolest version of the Spider-Man symbol I've seen, and maybe it was the concept that two entities who hate one person could come together and create something new and turn it into a badass character. It's probably all of the above. However, Venom has changed a whole lot over the past few decades, but if something hasn't changed, it's his relation to Spider-Man. No matter who is wearing the symbiote, they all have that one factor in common: Spider-Man. Spider-Man was obviously the first to wear the suit, and because of that, the suit copied Spider-Man's features. The spider, the eyes, and it even made the webbing look like actual webs.
Yikes! Wow, this new alien suit is quite the time saver. I just need my web shooters. It makes its own webs? How sweet is that? How did I ever live without you?
When Spidey finally learned that it was alive, he was able to get rid of it in a church, but little did he know what he was about to create. Eddie Brock had his life ruined by Spider-Man, and the symbiote began to hate Spider-Man for rejecting it. The hate they both had for Spider-Man created Spider-Man's poison, Venom.
Thought it was over, didn't you, Spider-Man? You made a fool of Eddie Brock whenever you could. It cost me my job, my reputation, my health, my apartment. You just won't stop till you ruin me, will you? You can't do this. I already have. You're fired. I'll get even with you if it's the last thing I do. Rejected the symbiote. Only wanted to make you stronger. Well, surprise, surprise. Now, we're one. Now, you're gonna pay. From now on, we're poison to you, Spider-Man. That's why we call ourselves Venom. Problem is, Eddie Brock isn't the same guy he once was. Why don't we introduce you to our better half? We call ourselves Venom. We're your old clothes, kid. Your hand-me-downs. The symbiote that Peter Parker tried to destroy, Eddie Brock has embraced. We bonded. It doesn't just bond with you, it takes over. Makes you do what it wants. You've got to separate from it. Separate? We're made for each other. Brock's rage and vengefulness made us a perfect breeding ground. Far better than you, Parker.
I'm going to tell you why I believe Sony has messed up the character of Venom in his movie, and explain why the Topher Grace version of the character was actually written better. Before I get into this, I just want to say this is my opinion, and an opinion is neither right nor wrong. If you had a good time watching this movie, then I don't want to take that away from you. Your opinion is just as valid as mine as long as you're not toxic about it. If that's the case, then you're just an asshole. So let's begin. One of the few things I like about this movie is Eddie Brock being an established reporter. We see from this montage that he clearly asks the tough questions, which is something that a good reporter has to do. Unfortunately, this is the last time we will see something interesting come out of this version of the character. We learn that Eddie is going to be doing an interview with Carlton Drake, who, by the way, is not Riot in the comics. Eddie clearly does not want to do this because his boss tells him it's just a fluff interview. I don't know why they need Eddie to do this, because clearly he's the guy who asked the tough questions, and now he's being asked to interview a guy with a bunch of rumors and allegations surrounding him. For some reason, instead of saying no, Eddie sucks up his pride and decides to do the interview.
All right. For me. All right, I'll do it.
Eventually, we learn that he was run out of New York and somehow landed in San Francisco. Conveniently, he discovers that his girlfriend's firm works for Carlton Drake, and then we find out that Eddie discovers documents pertaining to the rumors about Carlton Drake, and when presented the opportunity for evidence, he wastes no time making the bad decision. When he does the interview, you can tell he's just phoning it in, and then without even being smart about leading Drake into slipping up, He just asked him about the allegations.
I'm talking about the allegations.
I'm sorry, I don't...
Since your entire empire was kind of built on dead bodies.
Eddie.
It's true, right? It says that you recruit the most vulnerable of us to volunteer for tests that more often than not end up killing people.
I'm aware of these rumors online. There's a lot of fake news out there these
Right.
days.
And that is the end of Eddie Brock's career.
Have a nice life.
This could have been interesting, but the execution just doesn't work. Most things in this movie just don't work. It's at this point I realize that Venom cannot be Venom because Spider-Man is not in this movie. There can't be an interesting dynamic between the character of Eddie and the symbiote without the two of them being screwed over by Spider-Man.
There's your hero.
Huh. I never thought he'd really do that. Because I was looking through some old photos and it looks very, similar. You're trash, Brock.
Excuse me?
Your picture's a fake.
Oh, Parker, you are such a Boy Scout. When are you gonna give a guy a break?
You want forgiveness? Get religion.
What's going on here?
Are you guys all right?
Yeah, no, we're just horsing around. Look, I'm begging you. If you do this, I will lose everything. There's not a paper in town that will hire me.
You should have thought of that earlier. Show this to your editor. Tell him to check his source next time.
It's a fake. Empire State Photographic Department confirms it.
Pack your things. Get out of my building.
I was just
You're fired!
It's Brock, sir. Edward Brock, Jr. I come before you today, humbled and humiliated, to ask you for one thing. I want you to kill Peter Parker. Parker.
So how does Eddie get the Venom symbiote without Spider-Man? A person named Doris Skirth has been having second thoughts about what Drake is doing. I would too, considering the guy is literally killing people so he can further his own agenda. So instead of taking photos or video about what Drake is doing by herself, she decides that she needs disgraced reporter Eddie Brock to take these pictures and video for her. Why? Because the plot needs Eddie to get the Venom symbiote. They sneak into the lab, and it just makes you wonder, if she was able to sneak a whole person in the lab, why can't she herself sneak in a phone to take pictures? Eventually, Eddie stumbles upon a homeless person he knows, and then she vomits the symbiote out and then dies. This is one of the many problems with symbiote logic I have in this movie. It was explained that the symbiote and the host need to be an exact match, like donating blood or an organ.
It's similar to an organ transplant.
Where the donor and recipient must be an exact match?
That's correct.
Why was this written? At no point in the comics does the symbiote need to be an exact match to bond with somebody. Sure, it was established in the comics that a good person can make the symbiote good, and that a bad or weak person will drive the symbiote insane. But that doesn't mean the symbiote can't bond with anybody. If symbiotes need to be an exact match to bond, how come we see Riot bonding with people willy-nilly? And how come Venom can do it too? Lastly, if people die when the symbiote leaves them, how come Eddie, Anne, and the dog don't die? Does this mean the little girl died too? This is just some of the great writing you can expect from this movie. I would be honestly surprised if one of these writers had actually read a Venom or Spider-Man comic book. Anyway, throughout the rest of the movie, Venom and Eddie are played off like a joke. I laughed so hard the first time Venom spoke to Eddie. Yes, it's a funny scene, but only because it's so bad. The lobster scene, though, was officially the final nail in the coffin for this movie for me. Once again, it's another scene that had me burst out laughing, but because it's a Venom movie, it just doesn't work for me. Let me ask Venom fans out there. Did you want to see Venom treated like a joke? Did you want to see him eat lobsters and tater tots? I know I didn't. It amazes me that some people defend this and say that Venom is meant to be a goofy character. Really? Yeah, I'm sure Spider-Man was laughing his ass off when he and Venom were trapped on an island where Venom's only goal was to kill Spider-Man, and that the only way Spider-Man can get off the island was to fake his death. That's a goofy character? Look, if you want to see how Venom is best represented, I recommend checking out his episodes in the original Spider-Man animated series. It's on Disney+. Most of the characters there are handled very well. But anyway, when Venom fully reveals himself, he doesn't look horrible. He looks so much better compared to the Topher Grace version, although he is still missing the iconic logo. But even that still doesn't mean he is a good character. And then this happened.
What the hell are you?
I am Venom, and you are mine.
Right here is where the movie just says fuck you to the origin and character of Venom. Venom already calls himself Venom, despite having no relation to Spider-Man, no spider-like abilities to mimic, or reason to hate Spider-Man. He's just a pile of black goo with zero motivations. Well, I guess you could call this a motivation, but barely. He explains that he wants to bring more of his kind here so they can feast, but as we will learn, he quickly changes his mind because he stood on top of a skyscraper and said it's peaceful, and then for some reason says that Eddie was the reason that he changed his mind. How the hell did Eddie change Venom's mind? Oh yeah, that's right, they're both losers. At least this movie acknowledges that they both suck. One of the last things I actually liked about this movie is the SWAT scene with Venom. It's one of the few scenes that handle Venom well and treat him as a scary creature. And then it's cut short by Anne. Look, I might like this movie more if they actually went for a darker tone, but they just didn't do that. Eventually Drake gets a symbiote and then winds up wanting to go back to space despite not really preparing for the trip and not knowing where he's going. Eddie eventually rebonds with Venom after being separated without dying, and suddenly Venom decides that he likes it here, and that he isn't going to help destroy this world.
I have decided to stay. Wow. On my planet, I am kind of a loser, like you. But here, we could be more.
Excuse me?
And I'm getting to like it here.
Oh, you like us now, do you, huh?
However, there will be nothing left to like if we do not stop that rocket.
Oh, I see. Right, when it comes to being completely annihilated, then it's back to we.
It is we. Like it or not, it is going to take both of us.
Cut the bullshit. What really made you change your mind?
You did, Eddie.
This is some weak-ass writing, and you can tell its only purpose is to get to the final showdown in the movie. Because there needs to be some conflict here. The final fight scene in this movie is very hard to look at. You have dark CGI characters mixed in with dark backgrounds, and then eventually mixed in with themselves. Can you tell me what's happening here? Because I couldn't. Not until they were separated. Oh yeah, by the way, Anne can fight dirty.
Told you I could fight ugly.
Also, see what I mean about the security of this place? She just randomly walks in there and knows exactly what to press. How about that? After a shitty boss battle, we see Venom survives because Sony wants to make a franchise. And dear God, this might be connected to the MCU.
What's up, Doc?
And of course, the post-credit scene sets up the sequel.
Now get out of here. And I will. There's gonna be carnage.
That line is so on the nose and cringy as hell, just like the wig. Is that enough to tell you the way they handled this character was bad? Now, let's get into why Topher Grace in Spider-Man 3 is handled like an actual Venom character. Remember when I said what makes Venom Venom is his relation to Spider-Man, and that both of them hate Spider-Man? Boom! It's pulled off in this movie. Yeah, Eddie was being a dick by faking photos, but he is the bad guy, remember? Peter gets him fired and steals his girlfriend, and that sets up Eddie's motivation quite well. He then realizes that Peter and Spider-Man are the same person. Can I also say that this is a great way of paying homage to Web of Spider-Man #1? Yeah, Topher Grace probably wasn't the right casting choice for Venom, but when you realize that he is supposed to be a mirror of Peter Parker, it kinda makes sense. The symbiote hates Spider-Man for rejecting it, and Eddie hates Peter for getting him fired and stealing Gwen Stacy. Sounds like the perfect combination for Spider-Man's Venom. Say what you will about this movie, it does have problems, but when it's good, it's great. Just look at the final battle. It looks like it's ripped straight out of a comic book. This is what Venom needs to be, at least the Eddie Brock or Matt Gargan versions of the character. Although, an Agent Venom version would be cool too, but I doubt we'll see that anytime soon. It may seem like I went through the Topher Grace stuff real quick, but that's because he meets the criteria for Venom. Thanks for watching and listening to my rant. I hope you guys enjoyed and hopefully agreed with me, but if not, that's not a bad thing either. If you guys want to see me talk about how Sony can fix Venom, let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys later.